Are you craving a trip on Space Mountain? Well, we've got the next best thing. Welcome to Dizney Coast to Coast.
Hey folks, and welcome to Dizney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and welcome to the House of Mouse headlines for the week of April 5th, 2020, brought to you by laughingplace.com, your up-to-date resource for the latest Disney news every day of the week. In this week's news, more updates regarding the Walt Disney Company in crisis mode, some welcomed news for annual pass holders, an unexpected treat involving the Muppets, and more, so let's get to it.
Hear the latest news from the Walt Disney Company in today's House of Mouse headlines.
In the middle of national and global crisis, the Disney parks are looking for ongoing ways to help make a difference, supporting local communities and medical teams across the country. With that in mind, the parks announced this week that they had recently donated more than 100,000 N95 masks to the states of New York, California, and Florida. They also donated 150,000 ponchos to the humanitarian aid organization MedShare. Although these plastic ponchos are typically purchased by guests to keep them dry during rainstorms and on wet rides, nurses realize that by using ponchos, they can protect their clothing and prolong the use of personal protective equipment. With the parks closed until further notice and other aspects of Disney's business being severely impacted, this week the company announced some cost-saving measures involving its employees. First, it was announced that senior executives and above would see temporary pay cuts of 20% or more, with CEO Bob Chapek taking a 50% cut in salary and Executive Chairman Bob Iger foregoing 100% of his salary. Unfortunately, those cuts were not enough, as the company later announced that it would begin the process of furloughing some employees starting on April 19th, after their promise to pay workers through April 18th was fulfilled. While workers whose jobs are not needed at this time will be furloughed, they will remain employees of the company and retain their full health benefits, with Disney paying employee premiums during this time. Cast members will also have the option of using any paid time off they've accrued before the furlough begins. After being furloughed, employees will be eligible to receive an extra $600 per week in federal compensation through the $2 trillion economic stimulus bill, as well as state unemployment insurance. Amid that depressing news this week, 2 Disney resort presidents still took to Instagram to post messages reminding their global audiences that even in times of uncertainty, we can find hope. First, Walt Disney World's Josh D'Amaro noted that the American flag is still flying at Magic Kingdom, sharing a video of the flag being raised. As he stated, "I'm inspired how our security cast members continue to raise it each and every morning at Magic Kingdom while they are on duty protecting the magic. It's a symbol that we're still here and will not falter." Meanwhile, Disneyland's Rebecca Campbell found comfort in the light shining from Walt Disney's apartment above the firehouse. She wrote, "Inside Walt Disney's apartment overlooking Town Square at Disneyland, a light has shone through the window above the firehouse for decades. It glows as a source of inspiration to our cast and our guests, as a remembrance of the man who once looked out that window to the sights of happy families making memories below. Tonight, even in a world filled with so much uncertainty, that light still shines, bright as ever." With a reopening date for the Disney parks still unknown, Walt Disney World and the Disneyland Resort, as well as Aulani, have stopped accepting new reservations for visits starting before June 1st. This announcement doesn't rule out the possibility of the parks reopening before that date, but it does show that the company is trying to get ahead and prevent more cancellations. As for those who already have reservations before that June date and need to make changes, you can either modify your booking online or reach out to the Disney Reservation Center. Frankly, I actually think that this whole June 1st thing is a good sign. That hopefully means that the parks will be open by then. When the closure of the domestic parks was first announced, it was stated that annual pass holders with monthly payment plans would need to continue making payments, although the expiration of their passes would be extended to match the length of the closure. However, Disney has now made some adjustments to that policy and added other options for concerned annual pass holders. Starting April 5th, Disney will halt and waive all upcoming monthly payments while the parks are closed, and will also retroactively refund payments made between March 14th and April 4th. These payments will then resume once the parks reopen. However, with this option, pass expirations will no longer be extended and will expire at their original date. Alternatively, pass holders will be able to simply postpone their payments until the parks open, have their expiration extended, and continue to make payments until that revised date. Disney says it will soon offer more information about how guests with these payment plans can select the option that best works for them. Similarly, those who paid for their annual passes in full will also have the option to receive a partial refund for the theme park closure period instead of taking an extension in their expiration. Again, as I'm recording this, we're still awaiting more details on how pass holders can make their preferred selection. In a deal that was obviously in the works prior to more recent visits, it was revealed this week that Disney had purchased 26.4 acres of land on the southeastern shore of Reedy Lake, adjacent to Walt Disney World. According to the Orlando Business Journal, the purchase was finalized on March 31st at a price of $1.05 million and follows another purchase of 235 acres that Disney made in December. Before you get too excited, it's unclear what plans Walt Disney World has for the land, if any. But perhaps one day we'll see what becomes of this latest land grab. Even though we might not be able to visit the parks, we can still bring the magical feeling of the parks home in various ways. Now, thanks to Disney, one of those ways will now include a free ebook. For all of the young adult fiction fans asking what might have happened if Anna and Elsa never knew each other, Disney is offering a free download of Conceal, Don't Feel, A Twisted Tale by Jen Kalanita, available from March 30th through April 4th via Apple Books, Google Play, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. Disney also promises more free ebooks in the coming weeks, while you can also check out drawing workshops and other online videos from Disney publishing authors sharing their favorite excerpts. To find this and more, be sure to follow @DisneyBooks on Instagram. Speaking of online videos, this week the Disney Parks blog kicked off a new series giving fans a peek inside the walls of Walt Disney Imagineering. In the first installment, our guide Ann Myers introduces you to the concept of just what the Imagineers do and provides a look at the monorail hallway, modeled after the monorail at Walt Disney World. By the way, if you want to learn more about Walt Disney Imagineering and can't wait for the next video, you can always check out Disney's Imagineering in a Box, an online learning experience from Disney Imagineers available from Khan Academy. After being forced to pull the releases for several of their upcoming films, Disney has announced new dates for some of their blockbusters. Since there are far more changes than you'd likely care for me to rattle off, I'll just share some of the highlights. First, as you may have expected, Marvel's Black Widow will now move to November 6th, where The Eternals originally was, thus causing a ripple effect for future MCU releases. Luckily, you won't have to wait quite as long for Mulan, as it will now be released in Jungle Cruise's slot of July 24th. However, this means that the Dwayne Johnson-Emily Blunt adventure comedy will be moving to July 2021. Also notable is that Artemis Fowl, which was set to come out in May, will no longer be released theatrically. Instead, it will now debut exclusively on Disney+, although a release date has yet to be announced. And finally, we now know that the untitled Marvel film set to arrive in July of 2022 will actually be Captain Marvel 2. For a full list of changes and more on Disney's current slate, you can always visit laughingplace.com. In celebration of World Autism Awareness Day, the April 2nd episode of the Disney Junior hit Fancy Nancy will introduce a character named Sean who is on the autism spectrum. The character was inspired by a video of 11-year-old George Yaunoulis, who made a video with his mother to help his classmates understand what the world is like for him. Yaunoulis will also voice the character on the show. Additionally, nonprofit organizations Autism Speaks and Respectability were consulted by the creative team to ensure that they were handling the subject appropriately. And finally this week, Josh Gad continues to bless us with great content, this time sharing some script pages from the cancelled Disney Plus project ironically named Muppets Live Another Day. This scene in particular featured the iconic comedian Steve Martin as well as Muppet favorite Ralph. Attached to 2 pages was a caption from Gad that said, "Hope this brings a needed smile to your face. The script, written by me, Adam Horowitz, and Eddie Kitsis, was truly one of the most fun things I've ever had the honor of working on. Hope to share the whole thing with you all one day." Previously, Gad had shared what the premise of the show would be, stating it was meant to be a limited event series that picked up a year after Muppets Take Manhattan, and was essentially about what happens after you've reached the end of the rainbow. It was going to be Muppets by way of Stranger Things, and feel like a movie spread over 6 to 8 episodes. Although this is super cool to see a piece of the story, it does feel a bit like a tease. Man, I want to see this project made. That's going to do it for the news this week, so let's get to this week's Twitter poll. Now, these days, a lot of us are spending more time watching streaming services than we may normally do, so I asked you folks, if you could choose one streaming service to enjoy, which would you choose? Your options were Disney+, Hulu, Netflix, or Amazon. And last place was Amazon with only 1% of the votes, followed by Hulu with 15% of the votes, then Netflix with 21% of the votes, and a whopping 63% of you voted for Disney+. Now, I know that this is a bit of a biased audience voting, it being a Disney podcast and all, but I was quite surprised to see such a large percentage of you voting for Disney+, especially with the Tiger King obsession over on Netflix sweeping the nation at the moment. Do you agree with these results? Cast your vote in the Twitter poll every week by following Dizney CTC on Twitter. That's Dizney CTC. Now folks, if you haven't already, be sure to tune into this past Wednesday's episode with the return of Princess Pondering all about official Disney princess Moana. And on this upcoming Wednesday's episode, it'll be an Easter episode all about a Disney Easter tradition that a lot of folks don't remember. The easiest way to ensure you don't miss any of it is to subscribe to Disney Coast to Coast. Also, April is a live stream Q&A month for members of the DCTC community, so if you'd like to take part in this month's live stream Q&A or gain other rewards, you can check them out with no obligation over at patreon.com/DizneyCTC. That's patreon.com/DizneyCTC. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.